Hi, my name is Debbie and I am the Physician Associate Representative on the RCP Diversity and Inclusion Delivery Group. I graduated in 2018 from St George's University, London. Prior to that, I did a biomedical undergraduate degree in Leicester. And once I completed that, I took a year out. I was not sure what I wanted to do, so I did a bit of traveling. I worked part-time as a healthcare assistant and also completed a phlebotomy course. So I was able to work as a phlebotomist as well, just to earn a bit of money on the side. I came across the physician associate profession almost by accident. I knew I wanted to work in a hospital or in a healthcare setting, but wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So whilst doing a bit of Googling, I came across PAs. I also spoke to a PA that I knew worked in the States just to get a better understanding of the role. And then, yeah, that's what led me to becoming a PA. And since qualifying, I've worked in acute medicine, acute frailty, respiratory, accident emergency, which is where I'm at now in A&E. I've moved to a new A&E, so I'm currently working at Queen's Hospital and King George's Hospital in Romford/Goodmayes as one of the lead physician associates. I'm really enjoying my new role, although it has come with some challenges because PAs are new to the trust, but it's been going so well. It's been going well so far anyways, because we've had a lot of support from our seniors. But yeah, that's what led me to becoming a physician associate. Parts outside of being a PA, I enjoy traveling quite a bit and just learning about different cultures, which is what grew my passion about diversity and inclusion. I've always thought as an individual it's important to understand where people come from, how people identify, and just people's backgrounds and understanding them, because it kind of makes you a better human being, just being able to appreciate and understand different cultures, different ethnic backgrounds, how people identify, any long-term conditions that people have, or just a person as a whole as in themselves. So that's what grew my passion about diversity and inclusion. Also being someone from originally from West Africa, Nigeria, living in the UK. The UK is quite a multicultural, diverse country. So I just think as a person, it's really good to have an understanding of where people come from and why they present themselves in a different way. And in the healthcare setting, I think it's really important as well, because it just helps the clinician become a better clinician, but it's also really helpful when delivering like high quality patient care. Someone from a different background might present with the same symptom as someone from another background, but just the way they report their symptoms will be different just because of the background that they've come from. So I think it just makes you a well-rounded person altogether. So it's where my passion for diversity and inclusion has always stemmed from. So I heard about the role via the FPA newsletter. So that's the PA rep on the Diversity Inclusion Delivery Group for the RCP. I heard about it via the newsletter, so it was advertised. And I also saw it on the RCP website when I was looking for conferences. And I was like, oh, this will be exciting, because diversity and inclusion has always been something that's been quite near and dear to my heart. Initially, I wasn't going to apply because I thought I wouldn't be qualified enough, or I was just 3 years post PA school, and I was like, am I senior enough to apply for the role? But luckily for me, I got the role and I've thoroughly enjoyed it so far. And so in terms of the role, I work with both the FPA and the RCP. With the FPA, I attend board meetings. I've been able to write in the newsletter, just encouraging people to put themselves forward for the new roles that are being advertised, and just encouraging people from different backgrounds to put themselves forward. It doesn't matter what you look like, how you identify, or any conditions that you may have, that everyone's welcome to apply for these roles. In addition to that, I've worked in terms of sitting in different meetings and just explaining what physician associates are. With the RCP, so they came up with the Diversity and Inclusion Delivery Group because of a man called Ben Summerskills who did a report on the RCP and came up with some recommendations on how they could improve in promoting diversity and inclusion. So they had subgroups for the Diversity and Inclusion Delivery Group, and subgroup that I was chosen to be a part of was the Showcase and Diversity and Inclusion. So what they focused on was basically what the title of the group was called, how to promote and how to show that the college is a diverse and inclusive college. So we looked at the building, both the London College and the Spine in Liverpool, of how the building can be changed to show that the college is diverse. So obviously you need to take into consideration that you can't change, but just to show that medicine has progressed from before, and that, of course, you know, medicine did start off as generally a male Caucasian type of profession, but how things have changed over time. So it's taken into consideration the history, but also showing that history is things are changing now. In addition to that, the Showcase and Diversity and Inclusion Group look at the website, they look at any media that's put out there, down to the conferences, and making sure that the speakers group is diverse and that the topics that are put out is also inclusive. Even the small things like the food that's served at the conferences, the food that's served in the cafe in the RCP building, just making sure that everyone is thought of when these things are being planned. And I think that's really important, that even the small things like food and like just accessibility to the building, that the fact we're taking that into consideration is welcoming people from all walks of nature to come into the college and just to be well represented is a good thing. So I've had loads of opportunities with just put myself forward for this role that are not just included working on diversity and inclusion, but just a lot of other things. And I think that's one of the things about being a physician associate that's been good, that I'm not limited to just being a clinician, that there's so many other things that I can get involved in. So there's leadership, so I'm currently a lead PA in my trust. There's also, you know, being on the diversity and inclusion delivery group with the RCP, which has also led to me being involved with the museum group. I've had opportunities to have chats with MPs, and it's just making me a well-rounded person. So I think at times we get stuck with the thought that as a physician associate, there's no progression in the profession, but there's actually so many things that you can get yourself involved in, especially with the FPA and the RCP. And it's just about putting yourself forward and having a bit of confidence in yourself. So in my workplace, I know that, especially in my new role, I know that being a PA rep on the diversity and inclusion group was something that I used in my interview to get into my role as a leadership role. I think it's really important that you take into consideration that whenever things are being planned or whenever you're recruiting, that diversity and inclusion is always thought of. So that you can encourage people from different backgrounds, from different ethnic groups, people that identify in different ways to put themselves forward and come forward for the role. I think it just improves patient care overall when people have an understanding of where people come from and how they present themselves. Just because someone from a different background can present a symptom in a different way to someone else from a different background, just have an understanding of where they're coming from and why they're presented in that way. In every trust, I believe there's a diversity and inclusion and equality group that people can get involved in. And I know that the last trust that I worked at, they used to have like monthly meets, just an update of different projects. And it was open to anyone. The trust I'm working at now, it's also open to anyone. So I think it's important you can just get in touch with your manager or whoever and find out how to get involved in that. And I think it's just important that, you know, this is always taken into consideration, and like, apart from being a clinician, there's other things that we need to think of that will actually aid and make us a better clinician. In terms of promoting diversity and equality and inclusion as a PA profession. I think I've done articles. So I done an article for the FPA newsletter that usually comes out when we had one of the elections coming up, just so that I can encourage different people to put themselves forward. Because I think a lot of times we get stuck on the fact that changes aren't happening, but I think it's all about putting yourself forward and just having a bit of confidence in yourself, that just because you look a certain way, you don't think you have a certain qualification, or you identify in a certain way, it doesn't mean you're not going to be successful in the role. And just having a bit of confidence that if you do put yourself forward, there's actually opportunity, you could be successful. And I had those doubts as well when I was applying for that role, but I'm happy that I was able to overcome those doubts and put myself forward. So we do have a bit of work to do in terms of improving the diversity in the PA profession. But from the census data from year to year, we can see that the number of males have improved, or increased, I should say. People that identify with different sexual orientations, we can see that their numbers have increased. Also, people from different backgrounds, different ethnic backgrounds, the numbers there have increased. So I think we are on our way to having a more diverse profession. I do think it needs a bit of work, but I think we're heading in the right direction, and we're doing all the right things at the moment just to promote more diversity and inclusion. And just makes the profession more well-rounded. And I think that should be our aim, promoting diversity and inclusion, and also equality amongst PAs is really important.